Google has scrapped its plan to phase out third-party cookies in Chrome, pivoting instead to a user choice prompt amidst ongoing scrutiny and regulatory challenges. How does Google's new approach address privacy concerns differently compared to completely eliminating third-party cookies? There is a Telegram zero-day vulnerability dubbed Evil Video that exploits Android devices by auto-downloading malicious Android packages disguised as videos. What steps can Telegram users take to safeguard their Android devices? Sanctions are tightening the noose on Russian cybercriminals as the US government cracks down on the hacktivist group responsible for many critical infrastructure attacks, the cyber army of Russia Reborn. What impact will these sanctions have on this hacktivist group? And finally, Dragos has uncovered Frosty Goop, which is a groundbreaking malware that directly attacks critical infrastructure using Modbus TCP, and has been used to disrupt over 600 apartment buildings in Lviv, Ukraine for 48 hours. How can organizations protect their industrial control systems from this malware? You're listening to The Daily Decrypt. Google just made a U-turn on phasing out third-party cookies in Google Chrome. Instead of getting rid of these cookies altogether, which is what they were planning to do, they now plan to offer a new experience where you can choose whether to keep them or not. This change comes after years of delays and debates through their Privacy Sandbox initiative. So a little background on third-party cookies. These essentially let advertisers follow you around the web, showing ads tailored to your browsing habits. Interestingly enough, other browsers like Safari and Firefox have already ditched them back in 2020 to promote better privacy. But what about Google? They're in a bit of a tricky spot because their whole business model relies on ad revenue because all of their products are essentially free. And companies love to advertise on Google because they use these third-party cookies. They know their ads will be a little bit more effective. Google's Privacy Sandbox aimed to replace cookies with something called the Topics API, which categorizes your interests to serve ads. But critics say it still lets Google track you without clear consent. Apple even called out the tool for potentially exposing your interests and enabling user profiling. With Google's new path, you're going to get more control as the user. A user choice prompt will allow you to decide if you want cookies to track you or not. This move could reshape how advertisers reach you and how your data is handled online. And yeah, as mentioned, it seems like Google is a little bit behind the curve on this, trying to maintain their bottom line while also, quote, protecting privacy. And I know some people actually like these tracking cookies because they like seeing relevant ads to their interests. And so if that applies to you, Google Chrome will be a great option because you can choose to allow these third parties to track your data. Telegram, which is a third-party messaging app that's end-to-end encrypted, has a crazy zero-day exploit called Evil Video, specifically affecting Android users. This vulnerability essentially allows video files you receive from somebody else to contain malicious APKs, which is just Android packages that install applications. And normally the advice of not clicking any attachments from people you don't know would hold up, but Telegram in previous versions has enabled automatic downloads of attachments, which turns this into sort of a zero-click vulnerability where you don't actually have to interact with that video file at all because of the built-in feature Telegram offers to auto-download these attachments. If you did manage to turn off this feature of auto-downloading, you would actually have to interact with the video, but once you tap play, it's automatically going to download that malicious APK. There's also a feature in Android that you have to allow the installation and running of third-party apps, like explicitly. But if you've ever downloaded any sort of application from the web and ran it on your Android phone, this has been turned off. So if you're a Telegram user on Android, make sure you update the app to the most current version. I'd also recommend disabling that feature that allows the running of third-party software on your Android device, and find a reputable endpoint protection service like antivirus, anti-malware, and do a scan of your phone. There is a new malware named Frosty Goop that is wreaking havoc on critical infrastructure. In January, this nasty piece of code targeted an energy company in Lviv, Ukraine, and managed to knock out heating for 600 apartment buildings in nearly 48 hours. So what is Frosty Goop? It's a malware that targets industrial control systems, or ICS, and it's the first of its kind to use Modbus TCP communications directly. Frosty Goop is written in Golang and designed to attack Windows systems, specifically aiming at ENCO controllers with TCP port 502. The attackers exploited a vulnerability in MIC-ROTIC routers to gain initial access, but they can use any method to gain initial access. Once in, they sent the Modbus commands to the controllers, causing all sorts of mischief like inaccurate measurements and system malfunctions. But you're not in Ukraine. Why should you care, right? Well, over 46,000 ICS devices exposed to the internet use Modbus, making this a widespread threat. If you work in any sector relying on industrial control services, this could affect you. There's not much to be done about this specific vulnerability at this time, other than continuing to harden your security infrastructure, following the guidelines from organizations like IC3 and the FBI on securing critical infrastructure. And finally, the United States has just slapped sanctions on 2 Russian hacktivists for targeting critical infrastructure, including water facilities. The U.S. Treasury named Yulia Pankratova, aka Yulia, and Denis Dmitriyenko, aka Dania, as key members of the Cyber Army of Russia Reborn, or CAR. These cybercriminals have been causing chaos since 2022 with DDoS attacks on Ukraine and its allies. By 2023, they went bigger, hitting industrial systems in the United States and Europe. In January of 2024, CAR boasted about compromising a U.S. energy firm's SCADA system and manipulating a water storage unit in Texas. While they didn't cause any major damage, the risk is off the charts high. These sanctions essentially mean no US-based assets for Yulia and Dania, and US citizens can't do business with them. Also, financial institutions dealing with them could face penalties. This move aims to isolate these attackers, disrupt their operations, and deter others from joining them. So, long story short, is the United States is really cracking down on these cybercriminals, especially surrounding critical infrastructure, which is a good sign because, in my opinion, it's one of the biggest threats to our country at this point. And we're going to need to see a lot more work in this area to really deter attackers from messing with the United States. And that's it for that story. But before I let you go, I just wanted to talk about the best newsletter in cybersecurity, which is ours. It's short, it's sweet, and it gets you all the information you need that goes along with each daily episode. Essentially, it's a shortened version of our show notes sent to your inbox every morning alongside the episode with the links to the actual articles we're covering. Because yes, I want you to trust me and what I say, but you should never really trust, right? Trust but verify. So go read the news articles, get more information on these topics, and stay informed.
This has been the Daily Decrypt. If you found your key to unlocking the digital domain, show your support with a rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It truly helps us stand at the frontier of cyber news. Don't forget to connect on Instagram or catch our episodes on YouTube. Until next time, keep your data safe and your curiosity alive.